talks has sent the West's top diplomats hurrying to Geneva. They canceled their plans for this Friday and traveled to Switzerland. Here's the U.S. Secretary of State, John Kerry, who is there, along with most of the other foreign ministers from the P5+1. That's the 5 permanent members of the UN Security Council, plus Germany. All right, we're covering the story from all sides with correspondents in Geneva, Tehran, and Jerusalem. Let's start with Carl Penhall, who is live from Geneva, Switzerland, where these talks are taking place, with the latest on the negotiations. So how close are we to an initial deal at this stage, Carl?
It is still very difficult to say, Hala. There has been a flurry of expectation throughout the day, and I think a lot of that was sparked by the Iranian Foreign Minister Javad Zarif comments. He made those to Christian Amanpour last night when he said that he believed that they could have a draft agreement as early as this morning, that they would then debate and then proceed to sign. We haven't seen any sign of that piece of paper, but what that did bring in was the foreign ministers, and so we saw Laurent Fabius from France arrive, we saw William Hague from Britain arrive, and of course the heavyweight of them, US Secretary of State John Kerry. And when he came into Geneva, this is what he had to say about what was going on.
The P5 is doing some very important work right now, and I'm delighted to be here at the invitation of Cathy Ashton to try to work with our colleagues to see if we can narrow some differences. I want to emphasize there are still some very important issues on the table that are unresolved. It is important for those to be properly, thoroughly addressed. I want to emphasize there is not an agreement at this point in time, but the P5 is working hard.
And we understand at this hour, Kerry is now meeting with Iran's Foreign Minister Javad Zarif and also the EU Foreign Policy Chief Catherine Ashton. That's being described as a trilateral meeting to try and narrow some of these differences. All along, though, of course, let's remember this is being described as a two-phase deal. The first step would look to Iran to make some concessions to halt parts of that disputed nuclear program, and in return get some relief from those crippling economic sanctions that are hitting particularly hard its economy, especially the oil industry. And that will then buy time for more talks to go on to proceed towards a final deal. The end game, the end aim of that final deal is to ensure that Iran carries on with its right to pursue a peaceful civilian nuclear program while guaranteeing that it won't build a nuclear bomb. Right now, though, our understanding from European Union spokesman is that the key issue in the first step is the question of uranium enrichment. How much uranium could Iran enrich from now on, and to what purity? Because at one level you can enrich uranium that is great for generating electricity in a nuclear power plant, but if you go on and enrich it further, then the danger is that it could be diverted and be used in a nuclear bomb, and that's what the Western powers want to avoid against. And so this is what we understand is the nitty-gritty of what's being talked about right now, because Iran is continuing to exert its right, saying we have a sovereign right to process uranium. But we're still going to watch this close. It could well be that some of these talks go into the weekend, Hala.
All right, and interestingly, we're hearing from the Russian news agency RIA Novosti that the Russian foreign minister, who's not in Geneva right now, whose deputy is there, is headed to Geneva. So we'll see how significant that is as far as any announcement on any potential agreement. A first step is concerned. Thanks very much. Carl Penhall is in Geneva. Let's go straight to Tehran. That's where Reza Steya is standing by for the Iranian perspective to the story. So we're hearing some hopeful pronouncements coming from the Iranian foreign minister. Is there optimism that at least a first step to any deal is close right now?
Yeah, and that's been the case for weeks now. A lot of optimism, but people eager to find an outcome. When it comes to these nuclear talks, it's perhaps Iran and the Iranian people who have the most to gain and lose. That's why a lot of Iranians are very eager to see what happens with the second round of talks in Geneva. The stakes are high. The drama is high. We've been getting a lot of emails from people here asking us, do you know what's happening? Do you know the outcome? And what's adding to the drama is we're not quite sure what's happening behind closed doors. But what we do know is that there's all sorts of indications that all sides are on the verge of reaching some sort of agreement, maybe not a complete agreement, but a partial agreement on the framework, on a way to move forward, and that's certainly crucial to keep the momentum going. What's fueled the optimism is signals that Iran is prepared to make concessions, and as Carl mentioned earlier, we want to look at uranium enrichment. Is Iran prepared to halt 20% uranium enrichment? If they do that, that would seemingly make it impossible for them to produce the fuel necessary to make a bomb. Are they prepared to temporarily halt all uranium enrichment while these negotiations take place? They tried that in 2003. It didn't really work out for them. What Iran has made clear it won't do is to halt its nuclear program and halt uranium enrichment completely. Here's the Foreign Minister, Mohammad Javad Zarif, talking about that subject to CNN's Christian Amanpour.
There won't be a suspension of our enrichment program in its entirety, but we can deal with various issues. Various issues are on the table. Some of the issues that you mentioned are on the table. They're parts of this negotiations, and we hope that we can reach an accommodation where the concerns of all sides are met.
So that's Iran's position, and the people are united. We're not going to halt uranium enrichment completely. We're not going to halt our nuclear program, Hala, but we are willing to make concessions. The question is, can there be a win-win deal where all sides are happy? We're keeping a close eye on the outcome.
And perhaps one of the motivating factors for Iran are these very crippling sanctions in place since 2006. And any deal, any agreement would help ease those sanctions. They won't be eliminated entirely, we understand. But these sanctions have been terribly damaging to the Iranian economy, right?
There's no question about it. And you'll recall when Hassan Rouhani, the new president, started his presidency, he made a promise to the Iranian people that he's going to fix the economy. The quickest way to fix the economy is to ease or lift some of these sanctions. And the way to do that is to reach a settlement with Washington and with Western powers. And remember, it's this young population in Iran who voted Hassan Rouhani in. He promised them that he would deliver. So pressure from the population as well. For now, lots of optimism, but still a long way to go.
Reza Sayah live in Tehran. Israel is furious about